In October of 1902, a logging crew working deep inside Oregon's Blackwood forest dug up a wooden chest that should not have existed. 3 months later, only one member of that crew was still willing to talk about it. Even then, he refused to discuss what was inside. Instead, he gave a warning, a strange warning, one that made no sense at the time. If somebody tells you they've forgotten your name, leave Blackwood immediately. Nobody listened. By then, it was already too late. The incident began on October 11th. 48-year-old logging foreman Ephraim Locke supervised 17 men in a remote section of Blackwood Forest nearly 20 miles from civilization. Among them was 26-year-old camp cook Nathan Crowell. Nathan talked about only one thing, his newborn daughter. Every evening he pulled a small photograph from his pocket and showed it to whoever happened to be nearby. The picture showed his wife holding a baby wrapped in a blanket. Lucy. Nathan smiled every time he said her name. She's only 3 months old. The crew had heard the story dozens of times. Nobody minded. Blackwood was lonely. Talking about home helped pass the nights. 2 more weeks, Nathan would say. Then I get to meet her properly. The men laughed. Some teased him, others pretended not to care. But everyone secretly enjoyed hearing him talk about home, which is why what happened later would affect them so deeply. The discovery came shortly after noon. A massive cedar crashed during cutting operations. As its roots tore free from the ground, something emerged beneath them. A wooden chest, half buried. Old, weathered. The kind of object people dream about finding. Gold, money, hidden treasure. The crew gathered immediately. Ephraim forced the rusted lid open. Inside were ordinary items. Pocket watches, photographs, wedding rings, letters, nothing valuable. Then Surveyor Wesley Thorne picked up a silver watch. His smile disappeared. "That's my father's." Everyone laughed, until Wesley explained. The watch carried a family engraving. He had polished it himself 3 weeks earlier. His father still owned it. Yet somehow, an identical watch sat inside a chest buried beneath a tree. The laughter stopped. Then Nathan found a photograph. His hands immediately froze. The image showed his wife holding baby Lucy, the exact photograph he carried every day. Same pose. Same damage in one corner. Same everything. Nathan reached into his coat. His own photograph was still there. Now he held 2 identical copies. Nobody knew what to say. Then Ephraim discovered writing carved beneath the lid. A list. 17 names. Every member of the logging camp. At the bottom someone had written a sentence. "I think something forgot my name." The men assumed it was a joke. A strange joke. Nothing more. That night after the campfire died down, Nathan sat staring at Lucy's photograph. 2 weeks, he whispered. Then, I'm going home. A few minutes later, everyone heard a voice outside camp. Soft. Distant, calling from the darkness. Nathan, the young cook, immediately stood. Because the voice sounded exactly like his wife, and that was impossible. She was over 200 miles away. Nobody slept much after hearing the voice. The men searched the edge of camp with lanterns. They found no footprints, no horse tracks, no sign anyone had been near them. Yet Nathan refused to talk for the rest of the night. When Ephraim finally asked what was wrong, Nathan quietly answered, "It wasn't just my wife's voice." "What do you mean?" Nathan stared into the fire. "It sounded exactly like she did the day I left home." The next morning brought another problem. The chest had changed. Nobody claimed to have touched it. Nobody admitted opening it. Yet when Ephraim lifted the lid, something new rested inside. A muddy leather glove. Everyone recognized it immediately. It belonged to logger Isaac Boone. Isaac laughed nervously. Funny. Then he looked at his hands. The smile disappeared. His right glove was gone. Nobody knew when. But what happened next frightened everyone. Isaac swore he always wore a pair of gloves. Yet the crew looked confused. "What gloves?" Wesley asked. Isaac stared. "My work gloves. You never wear gloves." The others agreed. Isaac became angry. He insisted he had worn gloves every day since arriving. Yet nobody could remember seeing them, not once. Even photographs taken at camp showed bare hands. Isaac stopped arguing. By afternoon, he looked genuinely frightened. That evening, the men discovered another problem. The maps had changed. Roads appeared where none existed before. Creeks shifted location. Distances no longer matched reality. Wesley spent hours checking measurements. Nothing made sense. Then Nathan pointed to something strange. A narrow trail appeared on one map. Nobody remembered drawing it. The trail led deeper into Blackwood forest, toward an area left completely blank. No labels, no landmarks, nothing. At sunset, while eating dinner, Nathan suddenly looked around the table. What was Isaac's last name? Everyone laughed. Boone. Nathan nodded. A minute later, he asked again. What was Isaac's last name? The laughter stopped. For a second, nobody remembered. Then the memory returned, just as suddenly as it had vanished. Isaac stood up, his face pale. I think something forgot my name. Nobody laughed this time. That night the crew heard footsteps circling camp, not running, walking slowly, patiently, and around midnight, a voice called from beyond the trees. Nathan. Nathan was sitting beside the fire. Yet the voice sounded exactly like him. 2 loggers disappeared before sunrise. No screams, no struggle. Nothing. Their bedrolls remained untouched. Their rifles leaned against a tree, but the men themselves were gone. Search parties spread through the forest. No tracks, no clues, no evidence. Only the strange trail on Wesley's map. By afternoon, the trail had changed again. It now stretched farther north, almost as if it were growing. The crew decided to follow it. For 6 hours, they moved through untouched wilderness. The trail remained visible on the map, yet often disappeared beneath their feet, then reappeared miles later. At one point, Nathan stopped walking. What was the name of the missing guy? Ephraim frowned. Which one? The tall one. Nobody answered, because nobody remembered. The missing logger's face felt blurry. His voice was gone. His name impossible to recall. The realization terrified them. Hours later, they found an abandoned campsite, old fire pit, broken wagon wheel, rotting canvas, and a journal. The final entry read, "If I disappear, don't write my name down." The entry was dated 1878. Then Nathan found something else, a family photograph. Inside the chest that evening appeared another item, Nathan's photograph of Lucy, the one he carried every day. He immediately reached into his pocket. Nothing. The photograph was gone. Nathan stared at the chest, then quietly whispered, "I don't remember taking this picture." For the first time, Ephraim saw genuine terror in the young man's eyes. And that night, someone spoke outside the tents. It sounded exactly like Nathan. The real Nathan sat beside the fire, listening to it. On the 4th day, the trail finally led somewhere. At sunset, the trees opened. Every man stopped walking. A town stood before them. Not ruins, not foundations. A complete settlement. Rail station, water tower, cabins, storehouse, everything. Yet nobody had ever mapped it. No county records mentioned it. No railroad company claimed ownership. The sign read, Blackwood Station. Wesley slowly unfolded the map. The town had not appeared before. Now it occupied half the page, as though it had always been there. Inside the station office, they found photographs, dozens. Every one showed members of their crew, standing beside buildings, working, smiling, living in Blackwood Station. Photographs dated decades before any of them were born. Then Ephraim found a ledger. Names filled every page. Surveyors, hunters, loggers, trappers. Beside each name appeared a single word, collected. Then he found Nathan's name, not crossed out, not marked, simply waiting. Nathan stared at it, then said something that chilled everyone. What if I was never supposed to leave this place? Nobody answered. That night, the chest changed again. A journal appeared. Nathan's journal. The problem. Nathan had never kept a journal. Inside were entries written in his handwriting. Years of entries, all ending the same way. I think something forgot my name. By morning, Nathan could no longer remember when his daughter had been born. The 5th day broke something inside the crew. Men forgot conversations, forgot faces, forgot names. One logger forgot he had a brother. Another forgot where he was born. Nathan forgot his wife's face. That frightened Ephraim more than anything, because Nathan had spent every day talking about home. Now he stared at Lucy's photograph and quietly asked, "Who are they?" Nobody knew how to answer. Then Nathan disappeared. No screams, no tracks, no evidence, just gone. Inside the chest rested a final item, a birth certificate, Lucy Crowell, Nathan's daughter. The paper looked old, as though it had been there for years. The remaining men fled Blackwood Station. Only Ephraim escaped, or at least he believed he did. Rescuers found him wandering near Blackwood Creek 3 days later. Years passed, then decades. Ephraim never returned to Blackwood, never spoke publicly about the chest, never discussed Nathan. At first he remembered everything, then memories began disappearing, slowly, one by one. He forgot Wesley's face, then Isaac's voice, then entire names. By 1931 he found Nathan's photograph among old papers. He recognized the baby, but couldn't remember the father's face. The collection had never stopped. In 1938 he wrote his final journal entry. It contained only 3 sentences. "I remember Blackwood. I remember there were others. I think something forgot their names." A week later he opened an old family album. He stared at a photograph for nearly 10 minutes, then began crying. His wife asked what was wrong. Ephraim pointed at the picture. "I know that's my mother, but I can't remember her face." That was the last thing he ever wrote. When his belongings were inventoried after his death, a small wooden chest was discovered beneath his bed. Inside was a photograph of 17 loggers standing together. Only one face remained visible: Ephraim Locke's. Every other face had faded completely away.